Have you ever looked at a medieval castle and wondered how thousands of soldiers could surround it, yet still fail to capture it? Imagine spending months preparing an invasion, marching an army across the countryside with siege weapons, supplies, and hundreds of trained soldiers, only to arrive at a fortress that refused to fall. That wasn't unusual during the Middle Ages. Some castles were so well designed that they could withstand armies many times larger than the forces defending them. So what made these stone fortresses nearly impossible to conquer? The answer wasn't just their towering walls, it was centuries of clever engineering, military strategy, and careful planning. And that story begins with one king who thought victory would come easily. The year was 1315. Scotland was locked in a bitter war with England, and King Robert the Bruce had already earned a reputation as one of Scotland's greatest military commanders. Confident after several victories, he turned his attention to Carlisle Castle, one of England's strongest border fortresses. Capturing it would strengthen Scotland's position and weaken England's control over the region. On paper, the campaign looked simple. But the battlefield had other plans. As Robert's army approached Carlisle, relentless rain transformed the landscape into a sea of thick mud. Wagons became trapped, horses struggled to move, and soldiers found every step exhausting. Before a single attack had begun, nature itself had become England's strongest ally. Still determined, Robert ordered his men to continue. When they reached the deep moat surrounding the castle, they tried filling it with corn husks, hoping to create a crossing. It sounded like a clever idea, but the husks simply floated away, leaving the moat untouched while the defenders watched from above. Refusing to give up, Robert ordered the construction of a massive wooden siege tower that would allow his soldiers to reach the top of the walls. But the English quickly adapted, building tall wooden scaffolds that effectively raised the height of the battlements, making the Scottish tower far less useful than expected. Every new plan seemed to create another obstacle. With time running short, supplies running low, and morale beginning to fade, Robert launched one final assault. Scottish soldiers rushed toward the walls carrying ladders and shields, determined to force their way inside. But English archers unleashed a relentless rain of arrows from the safety of the battlements. Every ladder became a target, and every soldier climbing the walls exposed himself to deadly fire. The attack collapsed, and after only 11 days, Robert the Bruce ordered his army to retreat. At a time when many medieval sieges lasted for months, or even years, his campaign ended almost as quickly as it had begun. Carlisle Castle perfectly demonstrated why medieval castles were among the most formidable military structures ever built. They weren't simply surrounded by thick stone walls. Every gate, tower, staircase, courtyard, and defensive position was carefully designed to slow attackers while giving defenders every possible advantage. A much smaller force inside the castle could often hold off a far larger army outside because the attackers had to cross open ground under constant enemy fire while the defenders only needed to protect a handful of entrances. But castles were never built solely for defense. They were symbols of wealth and authority, homes for powerful noble families, military headquarters, and the administrative centers of entire regions. Their towering walls announced who ruled the surrounding land long before anyone reached the gates. Inside those walls, armies were organized, taxes were collected, laws were enforced, and political decisions shaped the lives of thousands of people. In many places, the castle wasn't simply part of the government, it was the government. Yet despite their incredible strength and influence, castles didn't suddenly appear across Europe. Like every great invention, they evolved over centuries as warfare, politics, and technology continued to change. Their story truly begins during one of the most unstable periods in European history, when the collapse of a powerful empire forced local rulers to find a new way to protect their lands, secure their power, and defend their people. What they created would reshape medieval Europe, and the art of warfare, for the next 600 years.